guys, welcome back to my channel. So it's been about 2 months-ish since I've been back in Australia. There's actually a few things that after coming back that surprised me, like, oh, wait a minute, what? I thought I'll talk about that today. I guess you can call it reverse culture shock. So culture shock is when you go to a new country for the first time and everything is so different and you're like, ah, so a culture shock. But a reverse culture shock, I guess, is after having lived in that country, the new country for ages, and then coming back to your own country, everything back in your own country just kind of shocks you. So like, oh, wait, what? So I want to talk about the 10 reverse culture shocks that I experienced coming back to Australia from Japan. So the first reverse culture shock would be the use of a blue pen. In Australia, you can use a black or a blue pen for your official documents, but in Japan, you can only use a black pen. So there were a few incidents when I was still in Japan where I tried to write documents in the blue pen and they told me, oh, you have to write in a black pen. I was told off a few times at work for writing my orders in the blue pen. So I developed this phobia of using blue pens. I actually prefer blue to black because it gives you a bit of color when you're writing. But I actually got rid of using blue pens altogether in Japan because I was just so scared of writing my documents wrong and having to write it again or being told off by my boss about using a blue pen. So I got rid of using blue pens. So the other day actually, this is back in Australia now, I was to get some documents certified and I handed over the piece of document and the lady just signed it in blue pen and I was like, ah! But I realized, wait a minute, oh, right, you can use blue pens in Australia. So yes, that was a reverse culture shock. My stomach legit dropped when I saw her use a blue pen. So yes, I'm back to using blue pens. It's such a nice change to see color in your work, I guess. So yes, blue pens. I love blue pens. So that's, yeah. So the second reverse culture shock, I guess you could say, is the throwing of garbage. As you know, in Japan, garbage is separated and even your household garbage, you have to separate the cans, the bottles, the recyclables, the burnables, everything. It's just such a complicated system. I really still haven't really gotten used to it. Like sometimes I still make mistakes. I was about to chuck a can into the bin and I was like, oh no, am I supposed to chuck it into this bin? And I actually said, Mom, am I allowed to chuck this can into this general waste bin? And she's like, yeah, you can chuck anything in there. This is Australia, not Japan. I mean, it's probably not good for the earth, but it's definitely much more convenient, like not having to think about separating everything. Like, we have a recycle bin as well, but you can throw all the recyclables in there. You don't have to split up all the recyclables in there either. And that's what you have to do in Japan. So that's the other culture shock that I legit went, oh. So in Japan, this is a third reverse culture shock. The main form of payment generally is cash. Some shops don't even like accept cards, so if you don't have cash on you all the time, plenty of cash on you all the time, then sometimes you'll actually be very inconvenienced by it because you have to go to an ATM and get cash and it's just so complicated. But in Australia, everything can be paid off with your card, and in fact, some places only accept card. I was to recharge some money into my university card to print out some stuff, and I was looking for a place that would accept cash to top up this card, but all of the machines just accepted only cards. So I was really surprised because, you know, I've been 4 years in Japan, so used to using cash. Now I have to go back to card, which is super convenient because I don't have to worry about cash at all, and I don't have to worry about losing money, not having money. I can always pay off my things with cards. So that is another good thing. Another reverse culture shock would be people walking into your house wearing shoes. In Japan, obviously, you have to take off your shoes when you go into someone's house. With me and my mom, we always take off our shoes because I guess we're Asian and Asian people tend to take off their shoes. I have had a few like workers coming in to fix up some like PowerPoints and stuff like that because things were breaking down in the house in Australia, and they just walk in with their shoes, which is cool. But I was really surprised because, you know, in Japan, even if I had like a handyman come in or someone to come in my house to check out my lights or whatever, they would take off their shoes and you know, try not to dirty the house. I guess I don't mind handyman or workers coming in with their shoes on because they're just here for a bit to do a job that I'm paying them to do. So they can leave their shoes on, and it's quite the norm here in Australia. But it's just that in Japan, like all the workers, anybody, if you get them to come into your house, they will take off their shoes. Even the handyman, he would take off their shoes, put them on the side neatly and walk into my house. I had forgotten that people wore shoes in the house here, so. So another reverse culture shock would be walking on grass. I know it sounds so silly, walking on grass, but I remember being told off in Japan for walking on the grass. I guess if it's a park or a garden, a public park or garden, then you can walk on the grass. But if it's the grass of like the school or a university or something like that, and if there's a pathway, like grass and then a pathway, like in Australia, everybody would just walk everywhere, like on the grass, on the pathway. But in Japan, it would just be like people would just walk on the pathway. So I developed another phobia of walking on grass. So the other day I was at uni, legit just walking, and I almost stepped on the ground, like, and I backed off. And I thought, wait a sec, I'm in Australia, whatever. And I just walked onto the grass, and it was just such a nice feeling. Everyone else is walking on grass, so it's great. So another one would be at the public food courts where there's lots of different stalls and you buy your food. One thing that you had to do in Japan was to bring your trays back to the particular store that you bought food from. So there will be like a return section where you, after you finish eating, you bring it back to that stall. In Australia, you don't have to do that. You just leave it on the table for the cleaners to do it. Like, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's just what you do. In fact, if you bring the plates and whatever back to the stalls, they might not actually like it. They have their own system going, so if you bring it back to them, they'll just have to bring it to the cleaners again. I don't know, but we don't have to do that in Australia. I keep wanting to bring my trays back, but my mum keeps saying to me, you don't have to, you don't have to, I guess. So another one would be at the food courts in Japan, you usually get free water, self-service free water, or you can drink, I guess. But in Australia, we don't have that. And I get so thirsty and I have to buy water, and water is so expensive here. And at some restaurants, you actually have to pay for table water as well. I remember paying for some table water at a Chinese restaurant. Such cheapskates. No offense. But yes, it would be nice if water were freely available at the food courts. Another reverse culture shock would be in which the days, month and year is written. So in Japan, you go by year, month, day. And if you write it just with the months and day, you write the month first and then a day second. But in Australia, you write the day first and the month second. Sometimes my friends say some dates to me and I have to like decipher what is she talking about. I have to double check with her if she means this day and month or this day and month, because the orders switched. So for example, if a friend wrote 2/3, in Japan it would be February the 3rd, but in Australia it would be the 2nd of March. So I had to get my head around it, and I had to stop writing the Japan way and write it the Australian way when I talk to my Australian friends, because they get confused too. So I was like, oh my god, I was so used to this. And on that note, the use of 24-hour time as well. In Japan, we use from 0 o'clock to 23 o'clock. In Australia, we use 1 to 12 and we add AM or PM. So I was so used to saying like 19 o'clock or for 7 PM and like 21 o'clock for 9 PM. So to have to like change my brain again and get used to using AM and PM. I've been using the 24-hour clock for so long now. I'm so used to it. Now that I'm back here in Australia, it's like such an effort to revert like AM, PM. And the last and final reverse culture shock. Oh my goodness, the internet is so bloody slow. Oh my god, I get so mad. Like, past 2 weeks I have been complaining to Telstra talk telling them that the internet's really unstable, my videos won't load, like it'll have to buffer every 5 seconds. It's so frustrating, can you do something about it? They say they'll call me 3 times and they haven't called me back. But I am paying like over $100 a month for internet. So expensive, so slow. In Japan I can get high-speed internet for like 20 to 40 bucks depending on where I live and my plan, and it will be so fast. Never had a problem. It's just so frustrating here, the internet. I just go like this every time I have to touch the computer. It's so frustrating. So yes, those are the 10 reverse culture shocks that I experienced coming back to Australia from Japan. Hope you enjoyed it. It's been a while since I did a talking video, so yeah, I will see you next time. Bye!